We thought we'd take a few moments to answer some questions that we've had either through YouTube postings or through emails or phone calls. One question we did have was about the wolves shedding, and they are in the middle of the shedding process. As we saw last week, we try to groom them or brush them and get rid of some of that hair. In the wild, you might see where wolves walk through the thick underbrush, and as they walk through the brush, it kind of catches their hair. So they have a natural kind of brushing in the wild. Here in captivity, because they are display animals and we want them to look as good as possible as well as to be as comfortable as possible, we do brush them on a daily basis and try to remove some of that hair. Aiden and Denali are the easiest to groom because they are the youngest. Aiden's better than Denali. Denali still has a little bit of a brush possession issue once in a while, but working out pretty well. One of the other questions that we had was, why don't they have any toys or balls or things? And certainly we want to stimulate the wolves, but we want to, again, make the exhibit as natural as possible. The stimulus that they do have are deer bones and hide and miscellaneous things that are left, and certainly those chewing behaviors are very common, and actually their teeth are very clean. Not a lot of tartar buildup because of the bones that they do chew on after a carcass feeding. One of the questions that we get asked on display is, when's the best time to view the wolves? And again, we do see with all the hair that they have, their bodies are covered with hair and not sweat glands. They really don't have a very good cooling mechanism. They're much more designed for colder weather than they are for warmer weather. So what they tend to do is stay fairly inactive during the summertime. So rainy days are always best. We got a nice little drizzle going on here. Grizzer's laying underneath a white pine tree there, trying to stay out of the rain. Cloudy days are good. Low humidity days, meaning the more humid it is, the more difficult time they have evaporating heat off their tongue and panting. So they're definitely, if it's a hot, humid day, that's worse than a hot, dry day. So we always tell people, if it's raining, it's a good time to come to the center. The wolves typically are not bothered too much by the rain. One of the other questions that we received was someone who was concerned that we spayed and neutered the wolves, and why didn't we breed them and release them into the wild in areas where there are very low populations. It's very important to understand a couple of things about captive wolves. First of all, we have 3 different subspecies here. We have Shadow, which is an Arctic subspecies, and we have Maya and Grizzer, which are Great Plains subspecies, and we have Aiden and Denali, which are Yellowstone subspecies. Breeding between the subspecies would not occur in the wild because of their geographic isolation, so we certainly don't want to create something that would not occur in the wild here in a captive environment. The other issue with not breeding these subspecies is that sorry, that's Maya. Maya's going to take a moment to greet the camera. Yes, Maya. Okay. Sorry about that. So one of the other reasons why we don't breed, even if we had the same subspecies, is that there is not a release program for the Great Plains subspecies. Population in Minnesota is doing extremely well, and while it is still considered a threatened species on the endangered species list, the population has met its recovery goals, and there are no release programs going on for the Great Plains subspecies. The Arctic subspecies are found in northern Canada, and they are not a protected species in Canada. Their population is, again, isolated by geographic range and very unique to that portion of Canada, and certainly does not warrant a release program either. Population there management, while there is mortality because of the harsh environment, is fairly stable. The Yellowstone, or northwestern subspecies, again, is the area of Idaho, Montana, that Denali and Aden represent. Again, is also a managed population. You may have read about recent change to population control by the states in the western U.S., and so their population, again, is not being born or bred in captivity and released. So, again, all three subspecies we have are not release candidates. Again, we are an educational facility with the purpose of teaching people about wolf behavior. We have a unique situation with three different subspecies here, and we're here to educate. And so that's one of the reasons why we spay and neuter, is that we manage a very small number of animals for the purpose of a very high intensity display. And we want to make sure that, again, that every animal is taken care of and not reproduce, first of all, something that would unnaturally occur in the wild between subspecies, and second of all, these subspecies have no release program, so captive-born animals who are not slated for a release will stay in captivity. And so we want to be responsible and not breed any more captive wolves than would be necessary. So that's kind of a little bit of hopefully answering some of the questions that we've received lately. And certainly if you have questions about management, questions about individual wolves, feel free at any time to post on YouTube, a comment, or be able to directly contact the International Wolf Center for educational information. I'm more than happy to participate in any discussions about management. We do feed roadkill deer and beaver, and many times there's hides and things left in the enclosure, and that gives them some stimulus. You're seeing them plucking the hide a little bit, and again, that's a common feeding behavior, to pluck the hair loose and then kind of toss it so they can get at whatever remaining meat is left here. So Shadow's got a bigger piece of hide that he's plucking, and Denali's got a small piece. And this behavior is all going on in front of the viewing window, so we are open to the public 7 days a week from 10 till 5 p.m. After June 15th, we're open to the public from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. And again, the best viewing for the wolves is earlier in the morning, later in the day, rainy days, cloudy days. Certainly the day after feeding is not the best day. Wolves are fed once a week here. They have a feast and famine digestive system, which means that they can consume up to about 20 pounds of meat at one time, and that's kind of how their digestive systems have adapted to life in the wild, where they may not be making a kill every day. They may be making a kill once every 7 to 10 days. So they have adapted to gorge and feed a large quantity of food. And we find that feeding pattern works very well here in captivity. What they don't eat, they cache, and they may eat 2 or 3 days later. Or here, which is Friday, right prior to a Saturday feeding, they're going to take off some meat and hide and kind of satiate themselves with a little bit of leftovers from last week, and then they get fed again tomorrow night. Wolves need about 3 pounds of meat a day to sustain themselves, and we find if we just give them that 3 pounds every day, there's a lot of competition, a lot of aggression, and they kind of, what your phrase, wolf down your food, eat it very quickly, and then never feel satiated, because their stomachs have, again, adapted to have receptors that when they consume, their stomachs expand. So we definitely want to give them that feeling of satiation, to be able to completely gorge and eat as much as they want once a week. Again, cache, do all their natural behaviors, and that typically is our best management plan. We do monitor the scats to look at indication of coloration. Really light color scats tell us that there's not much left in the system. And so if we see a lot of light colored scats, we certainly might feed an individual wolf between feedings to make sure that they get physically enough food to consume. Now Aiden's found himself a deer hide, and he's going to pluck a little bit. Denali doesn't like all the attention around him. He was having a nice comfortable hide till I showed up with the camera. So again, enjoy the footage, and we will see you next week.